People talk about the greatest of all times. First of all, that was all Chris's idea. It was 100% Chris's idea. I might have thrown in something. He probably told me I don't like it, and I'd shut my mouth again. Just riding down the road. But Terry Taylor got it approved, and we ran with it. But the funny thing that always cracks me up, and no people like to talk about the greatest of all time, and I don't know if that's an argument I want to get into, but I do think that Chris Jericho is the greatest of all time in the wrestling business of reinventing himself successfully. I can't think of another person who's come close to doing it. How many times he's done it, and always drawing money and always selling merchandise and all that. So. But this was like one of his first ones, and the thing that always cracked me up is, he would rip off my tux jacket, then he'd take my chair, like you said, and hit it against the ring post. So the next week he'd come out, bring out a new tux jacket and apologize, which made sense. But then he'd bring me a chair, and it's like I'm in a building with 5,000 chairs. Why do you need to bring me a chair? And it's little things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I liken it to when he snapped the pen before he said, you just made the list. I mean, he made the snapping of a pen get a pop, a huge pop. Mm-hmm. It's little things like that most people don't think of that makes him brilliant. Mm-hmm. And he's actually reading the book, and hopefully we'll get it when he's done. We'll get on Talk is Jericho and discuss it. I'm curious to see what he thinks, because there is a lot about him in there. Curious what Eric Bischoff thinks. That one has me a little nervous. But Chris, that was all Chris, and it helped me. It helped me, and a lot of the thing people don't realize, most of the stuff that Chris does is helping other people get over.
Mm-hmm.
I know the list thing got Kevin Owens over to I'm not saying he wasn't over before. He did the stuff with his group, which got Sammy Guevara over, and those guys. So most of the stuff he does is with the intent to get people over. I don't know where they're going with this new character, but I see that they put him with Big Bill, who's a great guy actually. Mm-hmm. So hopefully they'll be able to do something with that. I haven't watched the last couple of weeks of AEW. I've been doing mostly at night. I've been doing mostly interviews. So,
mm-hmm.
But yeah, Chris is great, and look forward to seeing what he thinks of the book.
Here's one thing I picked up on. You were just talking about nuance and the finer details. I think it was 2 weeks ago, he switched from the long pants to the trunks, and immediately the first thing I thought of was he did the same thing in 2008 when he switched from like the Y2J stuff to the he started wearing suits outside of the ring. And back then he said No Country for Old Men was one of the movies that inspired him. And seeing that, I was just like, all right, like here, he's not coming out saying like, I'm a bad guy. Like, I'm going to beat up the good guys and I'm going to take your belt and anything. But, just the nuance, the little subtle things that he does, it's really, you kind of pay attention to it over time. And he is really good at getting people over. And I think people want to, take a side of what, they like or dislike what Jericho's doing. But I think overall, it's going to get Big Bill over, and it's going to get other people over in the long run. I think that's
the point. And he wanted to get Orange Cassidy over, and he wanted to get Sammy Guevara over. And there's so many guys, that he, mm-hmm. Unfortunately, he did the thing with, I forget his name, the guy who beat him on his debut.
Action Andretti.
That's Andretti.
Mm-hmm.
And man, I was watching that, and I'm going, and not for a minute in my mind, because I was actually watching that live. Not for a minute in my mind did I think that Jericho wasn't going over at the end. There's mm-hmm. As much as I've been around the business, I'm watching it. I'm going, man, it looks like they might, but eventually Chris will go over. He'll find a way. They'll find a way. And when he got pinned, I was as shocked as I've been in anything in the wrestling business, quite frankly. Mm-hmm. And it was his idea, and unfortunately they didn't really take advantage of Action Andretti. He's still there, kind of treading, and but that's what he wants to do.
Mm-hmm.
So and I know that, because I'm friends with him. I've been friends with him for 25, 28 years.
Mhm.
So and I will say this, the other person who's really good at nuance and stuff like that, obviously he just went into the Hall of Fame, is Paul Heyman. But Paul does it for other people. Chris does it with himself to hope other people get over.
Mhm.
So it's very, if I don't want to not give Paul his due, but it's different because Chris is
Mhm.
coming up with, it's easy to get different guys over when they're different people, when they're different wrestlers. I get this guy over using this gimmick. I'll get this guy over using this gimmick. Roman Reigns is going to be the head of the table. Chris is reinventing himself every time,
Mhm.
so that to me is way more difficult.